Welcome to the Momentum Lifestyle Podcast, where we interview an inspiring, educational, and entertaining guest to help you build confidence, find balance, and live a life of impact. We'd like to thank our sponsor today, Be Spunky. Now, Blake, Gino, and myself have been using their Reboot product for well over 6 months now, and it has been life-changing. I found myself recovering faster, having way more energy throughout the day, and honestly feeling just more jacked up as a man. And this is because Reboot is clinically formulated to support healthy male hormone levels, providing stress relief, improved strength and stamina, enhanced drive, and overall well-being. Be Spunky Reboot contains a proprietary blend of 10 natural and organic herbs and active ingredients that are renowned for helping men to enhance physical and cognitive performance, improve stamina, energy, and endurance, optimize testosterone levels, support healthy reproductive function, support cardiovascular function, relieve stress, mild anxiety, irritability, relieve tiredness, fatigue, support healthy sleep patterns, and support healthy body weight. So as you can see, it is a must-have product for all men. So head to their website, bespunky.com.au. That's bespunki.com.au, and use the code MOMENTUM to receive 10% off all Be Spunky products.
Alex Ranieri, I got it right. Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having us, man. Excited to be here.
We're joking because we've known each other for quite a while, but I've never actually had to pronounce his surname. So hence the reason we got a little tongue twisted on that. Mate, it's good to see you again. It's been a few years since we kind of caught up. But for those that don't know you and your story, can you give us a little insight into where you've been and what's got you to where you are now?
Yeah, of course, mate. I guess we can start with the last name. Being half Italian, mate, they love their vowels, Blake, like I was saying earlier. Tell you what, it's quite incredible. But going back to that, being half Italian, right at the very get-go, and I'll accelerate through this for obviously the listeners, but my father's Italian, came over fresh off the boat back in 1959. I think he was 5 years old at the time. So being half Italian is quite an interesting upbringing. I'm one of 4 boys. Mum's Australian. Mum and dad met through work and obviously had 4 kids. I'm number 3 of 4. So it was a really interesting upbringing, mate, because dad coming over from that background and heritage is very, very strict, man. Like it's, amazing father and loves sport, got us all involved with sport and whatnot. But yeah, there was obviously, a level of strictness to how he operated, as well as me and my brothers. The household was an interesting one, mate. It was one filled with love and then filled with crash tackling each other through gyprock walls and then copping the flack from the old man. And even from mum being 6 foot tall and an ex-state netballer, I'm not sure at times, mate, who we would get in more trouble off when we were younger. But it was an interesting upbringing, man, because I loved sport, played sport, was very good at it. But between 9 to 16, and this is just to paint a bit of context and picture for the listeners, got heavily overweight, which came with it a lot of, well, I guess depression, man. When I look at it, I was lacking belief in myself. Got bullied, picked on. Obviously, girls didn't really want to know about me. And as a young man going through puberty in your adolescence years, that's an important factor that can plant a seed of a lot of insecurities as you get older in life. So having all these different issues was a really big hardship for me, mate. Moving through high school, feeling, I guess, like I was alienating myself through obviously a lack of belief and routine and structure, blowing out to 114 kilos when I was 12 years of age, that's pretty solid, man. I'm not saying that that's not muscle like when you're a man. I'm 110 now, but it's a completely different story. And that was really hard, mate. Like I guess that's what led me into moving into health and wellness and running gyms and whatnot. But before I got there, there was a part of me that really sort of clicked and went, enough is enough. And I started weightlifting and training and trying to turn my life around, seeing the vessel of my mental health absolutely being piggybacked off my physical presence, how I perform and what I can do, which whilst it was valuable and it definitely helped get me out of the pit, it actually came with a bit of a chip on the shoulder of a fear of failure, where I will show them, I'll prove myself, and I will be the man and prove everyone wrong. And whilst that can be valuable in a competitive sense, mate, it was only until a few years ago that I realized how much of a void that that actually left in my life, which led to my marriage breaking down, my business breaking down. Everything was in a really tough spot, which I'm sure we'll touch on and get to, which became High Performance Father, the program, and what we currently do now. But what that became was me pursuing elite sport. So I went from nothing to playing rugby league for our local St Mary's C grade, the under-19s, then went from there, progressed into Jersey Flegg for the Panthers, and then went into reserve grade for the Panthers, then the first grade squad. So it's quite a crazy turnaround, mate, when I look back at my life with so many ups and downs. It went from being this fat, overweight, depressed, bullied, picked on kid to someone who was basically on fringe first grade within 18 months of what's arguably the toughest sport in the world. All off the back of I'll show them, and you're very in tune with the space, Blake, whilst we haven't seen each other personally, like in person for a couple of years. A lot of the stuff that we've connected with and I see of you is very aligned. And two things generally do drive people. There is that fear of failure and getting away from pain, but then also what I call a love for greatness. And that's been the learning curve for me, to leverage them when I need them, but more so focus on the latter, a love for my own self-worth and value and greatness. But tough to have that, man, when you're a young man trying to make your way in professional sport, which I guess, to again not drag this out, led to 9 operations over a 6-year period. It became a failed career, and I don't know if failure is an interesting word, and obviously I'm much larger than what that was back then, but at that time it absolutely was. 9 operations, moving down to the St George Illawarra Dragons in Wollongong, being isolated from my family, having challenges with my now wife with 3 beautiful children who I've been with since high school, and lots of moving parts, mate, which led to essentially me having no money, not having anywhere to live, and moving in with my grandparents to try and rebuild my life, which then turned into a knee-jerk reaction to start a gym. And I know I've been speaking for a long period of time, mate. You haven't said anything, but like from there, I ran gyms for about 10 years, started with CrossFit Wellbeing, helped open up CrossFit North Head, as well as one of my friends helped him open up it's his gym, but helped him with CrossFit Greater West. And it's something I just love. Like, I love seeing that and that space, and then took over a CrossFit Raw Commando in Newcastle, ran that, and haven't been in gyms for a few years now, but essentially that became the vessel, mate, which then turned into obviously a big hole that I see in society at this stage, which isn't just fathers, it's men in its entirety, and having a not only a safe space, but a space of genuine accountability, challenge, and leadership, so that we can be more. And I'm sure we can dive into a couple of those bits and pieces, but that's what led me to where I am currently today in High Performance Father, which we currently have 300 members on the inside in our Inner Circle program, and we've serviced thousands of fathers all over the country. So whilst we do online events like Mount Kosciuszko and certain symbolic and physical events to challenge these men and bond, we're predominantly an online program. And yeah, mate, we connect with fathers all over Australia. Very proud of what we're doing. I've been doing that since 2018, which formally started as Real Dad Movement, which has now, like I said, been upgraded and evolved. And it's exciting, man, with the changes and what we see and how we work with men who do, like I was learning through life in my 20s, through sport, failures, careers, businesses, how quick life goes and where life becomes as you enter your 30s.
I think when we were catching up and I was training at your gym, you were just transitioning, or you'd started that potentially as well. So it's been awesome to see it evolve over the last kind of 4 years in particular. And there's obviously a number of things that you mentioned there, of which I want to unpack each of them. But one thing that really stood out to me, and almost sounds like we're on a similar timeline in terms of transitioning our motivation, was that dark energy that you mentioned. And I kind of refer to it as like fuck you energy, as opposed to what you talk about of like the light and the dark energy. But what did that look like? I can't remember the language that you used, but what did that look like, and how did you transition that, or what was maybe the catalyst for you understanding that you were using a different motivation, and what became the catalyst for you transitioning that into potentially a healthier motivation?
Yeah, great question, man. It really was awareness. I think a lot of the times, and look, I'm very big on facts. We're very factually driven with our tribe and how we create results. So whilst it's a guess, it's a very educated one. I'd say, mate, probably 80% of solving problems and solutions for most people is awareness. You know, maybe it's 83, maybe it's 76, who knows? But I tell you, like having that awareness is the catalyst to opening up opportunity for change, but you've got to take action. And the big thing for me, mate, was recognizing that the whole fear of failure, or like you said, the fuck you energy, and I'll show you, I'll prove myself to you, and I'll prove you wrong, and I'm the fucking man, and all of that. Unfortunately, upon zooming out and just reflecting and reviewing, it still uses the external environment to validate and justify who I am instead of internally driving, well, who do I choose to be? And a lot of people might think that's the same thing. And whilst they're inextricably woven together, your internal and external environment, like we have two realities, the reality inside of us and what's happening outside of us, they are different because they're two different metrics that drive us. So when I started to see that elite, being the fat boy, getting fit somehow still wasn't enough. Playing elite sport, man, and doing things that very few men have ever done. And I'm not the only one who's risen in a specific sport quickly, but that's a pretty fucking tough game when I have other guys, when I'm just superseding, that have played footy their whole life. And I grew up with soccer and cricket. Starting gyms wasn't enough. Competing as one of the fittest men in the world for my size in the sport of CrossFit. Like there was no one 113 kilos doing muscle ups and handstand walks at 6'4" like I was. I was up against 80-year-old 80-kilo nuggets, that were younger than me, 25-year-old 80-kilo nuggets that were 5'6", and still wasn't enough. And what I started to see was nothing outside of me that I was using to prove my worth, value, or status or position was actually fulfilling me. And this is what became the void inside of my life. So the catalyst was actually my marriage breaking down, my business breaking down, and my body actually starting to break down with obviously the injuries coming back to me, pushing hard in elite sport in 2017. And I feel blessed for it. And from there, we caught up after that period, but from there was when there was this rebirthing of Al, so to speak, as well as the direction in which I wanted to steer my life and the value of service, which, like I said, became this program in 2018, which I sort of just kicked off when we caught up in Newey. But that was the catalyst, man, because I saw that. I was like, you know what? I'm using all these things, my marriage and all these other things, to validate who I am, to justify who I am. But essentially, the truth was, because of my own lack of self-belief and self-worth driving that, which I call the love for greatness, and loving who I was and who I want to become, the irony of it all was I was actually alienating myself and becoming estranged to the things I was trying to prove myself against. It wasn't that I was popular in the CrossFit scene. I wasn't connecting well with my wife. I wasn't being the father I should have been. My business certainly wasn't thriving. So I was like, fuck, everything and everyone I'm trying to prove myself to was actually getting worse and worse, instead of me just staying in my lane and focusing on who I want to be and driving that. And I hope that came through clear enough, man, because there is a difference. I mean, a lot of people, and it's not that you can't use the other one. Like, I love competition and what we do, because it inspires me. It's not, hey, I'll beat you. It's like, hey, I can lift my game here, and these are my standards. And you show me someone's life, I'll show you their standards. So I love that aspect of it, but that's not the main driver anymore. And I think with that, man, and just to finish on that, you really start to actually understand not only who you are and where you currently are, but your choices of who you want to be and where you actually want to go.
It's interesting you say that, the fear of failure, and obviously I kind of refer to it as the fuck you energy. Tom Bilyeu actually spoke about it last week on a podcast, and probably similar to you and I, he kind of used to see himself as probably 80% that darker fear of failure, fuck you energy, and 20% the light and the real kind of internal drivers. And his interpretation of it now is 80% love, like what's intrinsically driven. And every now and then, if he needs a little extra fuel, he'll use a little bit of that, but it's not his main driver anymore. And I kind of like that, that he kind of uses like an 80% real embodied internal drivers. And every now and then, if he needs a little fuel, I didn't mind that. So yeah, it sounds similar to kind of how you and I both see things. In hindsight, what was the catalyst for the marriage breakdown, and what's the difference with, I guess, life before and after?
Look, I think the catalyst, mate, was really coming to a pinch point where it was like, okay, I'm going to lose everything. I'm going to lose my marriage. I'm going to lose that connection with my daughter. It obviously means that nothing will work inside of my personal life and my business, because I was so hinged around everything outside of me became my identity. So it really was that moment where it's like, you know what, the things, like it was literally like a moment where I was like, hey, this is real, man. This is actually going to happen. If you don't fucking do something about it now, this is what's going to happen. Are you ready for that? Are you prepared for that? Do you actually want this? Obviously the answer was no. And it's not that I'm, trying to dodge adversity or discomfort, man. I think all of the hardships, I don't have any regrets, Blake. And whilst I might have caused pain to others, pain to myself, and done things that in hindsight I might have been able to do better, it's like the clay sculpture, right? It's like the carving. It's all a part of me. So just like what you're talking about with Tom, yeah, man, I have those memories. I will never forget what it felt like to be that fat boy as a driver, a motivational point to go, you will never become that ever again. You will remain a strong, fit, healthy man, just like in marriage, just like in business, serving people. So all of these little dark points, it's just molding and resculpting the clay. So life before and after becomes a different carving, doesn't it? Becomes a different statue. So life before, much less fulfilling, much more chasing, much more looking at, we use different terms like silver bullets, shiny objects, instant gratification, all the things that are like, hey, this is what I need, which unfortunately is a large part for most people in this world, where they're so zoomed in on the chaos of life. They're just A, treading water to survive every day, but B, making life worth it, treading water every single day by looking for those little trinkets and treats like pornography, technology, social media, all the little things that give them that little hit to go, hey, this is cool. This is gonna numb the pain for now. That's what life was like before. And what that was, mate, was obviously an addiction to performing in elite sports. I didn't need to fucking do CrossFit anymore. I'd competed at 3 regionals, right, for my size. But the gym wasn't a business. It was a facility to continually house, I wouldn't say ego, just a void inside of myself, because I wasn't beating my chest against other people or highlighting myself with arrogance at the detriment of lowering someone else. It was absolutely trying to fill a void of an identity that was using things outside instead of actually going in and going, what do I want? Like, I don't need to keep pushing, man. I've been an elite athlete for 14 years through rugby league and CrossFit. Do I need to keep doing this? Obviously not. So life beforehand was that. Life after, oh man, it's incredible. Like, the impact I have in my business is fantastic. The team I have around me is phenomenal. I spend time with my children. I've got 3 kids now. I spend hours with them every single day. I've got a beautiful balance in my life. I go out and hunt and produce and have a fucking amazing business that makes good money, but provides a phenomenal service to these men and transforms their lives. But on top of that, I spend time with my wife. I spend time with my children. I'm physically fit, healthy, and strong. I've got my shit together. And that's essentially the embodiment of our program, where we do have that balance. And people have different interpretations of balance, Blake, and that's cool. But for me, and it's not 6 hours with yourself, 6 hours with family, 6 hours of sleep, 6 hours of work. It's knowing and having that awareness of where your priorities lie. And for us, our principle in HPF is the circles of significance, which is family, self, and service. And that's all that matters. Like, as a man, as you get older, doesn't mean I don't have hobbies and enjoy other things, but family, self, and service. How are you turning up for your family? What's the value add to the world? And the biggest one, your cup. How are you pouring into self so you have the capacity to be able to perform? That's what life is after, man. More control, more freedom, and owning my destiny and doing it from the inside out. Because when I'm 100% inside of who I am, Blake, everyone wins. That's, and that's not selfish to my family. It's being more for my family. It's being more for service, being more for you on this podcast. That's what life's like after, man. Instead of chasing, it's leading, I guess, in a really easy way to put it.
There's a lot in that, of which I'd actually probably get people to re-listen to that last few minutes, just the significance of what you just said. And the thing that, plenty of things stand out, but one of the things that stand out is that interpretation of what selfish means, and often the negative connotations that come with it. But what does it look like to be of service and to be aligned with your purpose, passion, and mission, and the importance of that from the masculine point of view? And what's the flow-on effect to family, friends, partner, and everyone around you?
It's a really interesting question, man. I guess the the first point is just here's a perspective for those who are cautious. It falls in the same category as being perfectionist. It's a bullshit excuse, right? When people are talking about their concern or worry about being selfish, put it this way. When you say you're sacrificing for the family, you're actually doing exactly that and more. You're sacrificing yourself and the family. This is what men don't quite understand, and women as well. Like women, mothers, they do the same, man. Like no different. But essentially, when it comes to being selfish, the amount of times I've had people say on my ads, no, family first, family first. I'm like, yeah, put your fucking family first by being the best and giving them the best of you. If you're operating at 40%, you're actually being selfish, Blake, by giving your family 40% of who you can actually be. Like, think about that for a second. Your listeners right now, you're giving them, but I'm giving all I can give out. That's right. You're giving 100 over 40. Correct me if my maths is wrong, but 100 over 40 will only ever be 40. That's the denominator. That's the bottom line. So what we talk about with men is it's not about reposition where you need to with your daily structure and your family commitments, your service commitment, but make sure you're topping yourself up to be a true 100% so you can give more, which means you're not only efficient in how you operate, but you're effective. You're doing things right and you're doing the right things. Now, where that translates to service and the masculine side of things and how that affects family and friends, it's so fucking important. And that doesn't mean I don't have an issue. That doesn't mean I have an issue with dads who might be stay-at-home dads or other people. We both have a level and an amount of masculine and feminine energy inside of us, but innately inside of us in men, how we're wired, what we do, we fucking built this world. And that's not at the cost of women. They created the survival and the continuation of this world. What a phenomenal gift. I'll never be able to bear a child like my wife did, just like she doesn't have the logical thinking, the critical skill sets, as well as the risk and standing up and just fucking making the impossible possible in creating, building, and constructing. And it doesn't mean that you can't do both, although obviously I don't believe in a lot of the shit being spun around men being able to have children, but maybe that's a story for another fucking day, because that's just crazy where the world's gone with some certain perspectives and illusions. But essentially, man, yeah, at a core level, Blake, we are designed and built to go out and hunt, to produce, to provide for our family, not just money and digits. Like I said, I still spend time with my children. I have a term, the Viking and the panda, and I'm both of those to my kids. There's times when I am the panda, they're playing with me, dressing me up, painting my nails, awesome. And there's times where I'm the Viking. I speak and they listen. And that's an important, empowering thing, not to dominate someone, but to help people understand that in this world, what is lacking is strong men. And what a real woman wants, funnily enough, is a strong man. Real women want real men. So a bit of advice for those who are listening, man or woman, young or middle-aged, don't listen to the bullshit minority that gets pushed or forced down your throat on all these different ideologies or things that they think, or things that you should be thinking that you want in a man. Because I tell you right now, mate, my ability to go out and hunt and produce and stand up and be strong, have healthy boundaries, not be a fucking puppy to my wife and just be a yes man, is a very attractive thing. She loves that. She finds that attractive. It's not a power thing. I talk about having 2 pairs of pants in the house. She wears her pair of pants and leads the house when and where she can and should, just like I do. And that's not role relevant. I know how to stack a dishwasher. I'm not talking about being a pig back in the early days. It's about actually going, no, you know what? Everyone should lead. And for a man to go out and produce and perform results and have that, it's going to build not only his competency, skill set, and value to society, but his confidence, which then, like you said, to your peers, to others, the ripple effect on how you're leading friends, family, or children. It's a valuable thing, man, because you're constantly turning up and showing what's possible, which inspires others who might not think inside themselves that it is, to turn around and go, hey, maybe I can do it because Al believes in me, Blake believes in me, Dad believes in me, Dad's shown me how to do it, James has shown me how to do it, Bob's shown me how to do it. And I think that's a powerful thing, man. It really is at a family nucleus level, but also, like you said, for friends and peers. Don't ever deny that. Like you see it so much. I've got 2 daughters and 1 son, and the little bloke loves trucks. He's going to be an engineer or something, man. He loves trucks and screwdrivers and building. We never had any of that because my first 2 kids were girls. He looks at the dolls and it just doesn't make sense. Whereas the girls, they play with the dolls and they love all that sort of, and it's like, why would you not harness or nurture what is pure energy in its own unique fashion? And when you see that down the road get completely either manipulated or destroyed, you have so many men in their 20s and 30s that are just fucking lost. They don't even know who they should be, what they should be, instead of just going and realizing the energy that's pure and natural for them. You bring that out, man, you see big shifts for everyone around.
Couldn't agree more, as you and I both know. We've got to try and balance what's going on in the world somehow. What does that look like in terms of bringing that to light? You know, so let's say a man comes to you, obviously a father. Where do you start? Like, you know, I assume a lot of guys that come to you are lost, or the fire is just simmering slightly within them and the passion is, you know, not quite dead, but pretty close. What does it look like to ignite what is innate in them? And some of them don't realize that they actually do have it, but to essentially rebuild them, rebirth them, and give them the life and energy and passion that, you know, is clear within you and no doubt within plenty of men that you work with as well.
Yeah, great question, man. And you know what, the irony is like that a lot of these pathways are very similar. You'll go and read all sorts of different books or different professionals in, you know, whether you would call it a coaching or life coaching or leadership space. It's very similar. And the words and the terms that we use, there are 4 steps, and we call them our 4 pillars. They're very valuable, and a lot of people carry similar through, just like you would. And the first one is alignment. Where do you start? Well, you start by actually getting clear on the facts. Where am I right now? Because it's a completely different course. Like if you want to say go to Italy, well, that's all well and true, but what does that actual journey look like? Like, are you coming from Australia? Are you coming from Western Europe? Are you coming from Asia or Africa? So it's a completely different journey depending on where you actually are. So if you can't even see where you are right now, how will you know the course to take? So we get the men clear on their facts of where they are inside of their life. And we use a method, the acronym's FORCE, but it's a FORCE method. So what are the feelings they desire? And then the outcomes, because facts and feelings are important. What are the roadblocks they currently face? What are the commitments to overcome the roadblocks, to achieve the outcomes, to have the feelings be true? And evolution. Why is this a goal worth chasing? How is this moving me forward? We get all of our men to fill in that FORCE method to start with and get them aligned with who they want to be in family, self, and service, as a man, as a husband and father, and as a valued member of society. So it starts with alignment, getting clear on where they want to go. Otherwise, there is no point. Nothing makes sense. But from there, and this is important for listeners, father or not, man or woman, you must get aligned. Like, it's critical. Otherwise, your efforts are futile and undesirable upon reflecting. But the second one is absolutely energy. So our second pillar is energy. And for a man, different to a woman, although they can tap into their primal power, but for a man, yeah, we get them tapping in their primal power, their physical, mental, and emotional energy. The mental and emotional is skill sets around relationships and how they connect, as well as mental and emotional, diving into educating themselves, knowledge, books, audio, but all different things to start building a bandwidth that they can adjust perspectives when needed, not be triggered, not play the line of the victim, and rise up and lead through actions. So if you don't have the capacity and gas tank to perform, you're going to be more triggered, more grumpy. Things will take longer. Things will be harder. You'll fall back to the little voice inside more often instead of rising up and creating your own standards. And you'll have less endurance. So later in the day, you're struggling. You can't last a full day. So energy is massive. That's the second one. And essentially, that's how we go straight for the kill, because we know, and that doesn't mean it's fitness per se, but that's an element of it. But we know if we can raise your capacity to perform, everything else mentally, emotionally, and surrounding you becomes easier. The third and fourth is immersion and performance. So immersion's tribe. Like you must have the right people around you. So we get these men clear on where they're at, where they need to go, and why. Okay, who's taking us there? Right, building the vessel, the vehicle. All right, who am I going with? Who are your tribesmen? Who are the other people who will call you on your shit? Hold high standards. Be genuine in their approach and having your best interests at heart, and genuinely loving their journey as well as yours together, where there's a lot of similarities. You know, it's why, and it's no disrespect to men or to women, it's why I stay so dialed in and being an inch wide but a mile deep in working with fathers in a specific way and a specific father. Because there are a lot of dads out there who don't want to improve. They don't want, like, the majority of the world doesn't want to live a great life, man. And that's a hard thing to say, but you can't argue that. You can create stories around to argue against that point, but it's the truth. Otherwise, people would fucking do something about their situation, right? Just like you and me had to. So I'm not, because it was funny. I had this, as a rant, but I had a guy who said to me, "Oh, do the majority of men really think that you should lead, dominate, overpower, pick whatever word helps you sleep at night?" Like, this is literally what he wrote on one of my things. Uh, be the only one who does that for the family, and the woman does nothing. And I said, look, to be fair, to paint a bit of clarity, I don't give a fuck about the majority of what men think, to be honest, because that's what's led to a lot of the problems in today's world. We focus on creating our own new standard, and those who want to come up and be an elite player and live and love the life that they have on their terms, they will rise to the occasion and rise to the standards we set. That's why immersion is so important, man, having the right tribe. And then performance, the last one, is just tracking. Do we need to go a degree left, a degree right? How do we track that? What does that look like? We obviously do weekly temples, and that tracks their data. We have subjective and objective data. I think that's important. Like, it's important to recognize the feel and the mindset of where the man's at. All right, let's get clear on the facts, though. Did you do what you said you would do in these key areas? We have things like honey and handsome time. How many times did you date your wife this week? Dad ventures and special time. How many times did you spend with your kids this week? What did you do with them? We use MyZone for tracking certain things, Aura rings for sleep. So we have like hard objective data, and that actually prints out a high performance father score. So every week you get scored. What did I get? Where am I at? So that's cool, man, because it's a game. And like a lot of, like all sports, one of the most valuable things to drive people in the right environment is a scoreboard. In 5 seconds, am I winning or losing? So that's in a nutshell, mate. Like, those 4 pillars are the core of the process. Where are we going and why? What's taking us there? Who are we going with? And am I on track to reach it?
Mate, love it. The detail is phenomenal, which knowing a bit about you doesn't surprise me. It's awesome. What does that look like? I know you spoke right at the start around accountability, challenges, and leadership, which, based on what I'm hearing, I assume tie in pretty closely with this scoreboard and the performance bit. What does that look like from an accountability point of view? What does healthy accountability look like within a group of men?
In terms of accountability, what is probably the most valuable asset of HPF, which we get from the members time and time again, is the tribe. So we have a chat group, but the chat group's called Winners Chat. So it's not to paint a picture and sing Kumbaya holding pinkies and think everything's okay. Like, being optimistic without a line of action is something to be cautious of. It'll fuck you up, just like being positive with no actions to back it up. So having that chat group really sets a stage where, if you have problems, come to the party with them, but actually become part of the solution. What have you done about it? What will you do about it? So it actually becomes and has become a bit of a mastermind network where these guys are really navigating and working through their hardships, what they're doing to get on top, their wins. We set challenges inside. So right now we have a competition called Winter Wars, but it's a 3-part series. So it's the first 3 weeks of every month of winter. So there's a bit of a break for a week and a half to reflect who's winning, what do we do, here are the points, runs on the board. So accountability is really solid, man, because a lot of the times it's not just the coaches with the clients, it's actually the men with the men. And I think, just to answer your question, that's what's probably most important, because I don't want to be somewhere where I'm a leader and they're followers. We're all leaders and we all have value to add. So inside of a men's group and a woman's group, but inside of a men's group specifically, yeah, man, like it's accountability to each other. And that's what I love most, because accountability is almost like it's like a triple whammy, right? Like, if you've got accountability, which means there is someone to answer to, like, you're accountable to yourself through someone else, right? But then if you're truly accountable, well, it's truth. Like, so you're living truth on where you are. Did you do what you said you do? Like, did you follow through? Because we can all create promises in our head that become fucking lies and not follow through, and no one knows about it, right? And for us as men, it's not about pride, but essentially it's about honesty. So when you're making these declarations, if you don't follow through, you're a fucking liar. And we don't have time for lies. The higher truth you live in your life and create, the better your life is. It's that simple. And third one is ownership. So what we have in these men is you're taking ownership over your life, you're living a truth, and you are answering to someone with those 2 points on what you actually did, or if you've got troubles, what you're going to do about it. That's what it looks like inside of our group. I'd say that'd be a good model for most people, because in a world filled with lies, facades, smoke, and mirrors, what could be more stable? Forget safety and security. I fucking hate those words, but what would be more stable to create the life you want than truth, having that clarity and knowing exactly where you are, where you stand, and having that to to share with others. So yeah, the coaches, we have dream teams, we check in with them one-to-ones, we have coaching calls, and we're pretty extensive and personal in our approach. But from an energy point of view, oh man, 300 guys on the inside is bigger than Al just spitting fire for half an hour. You know what I mean? Like that's huge. That's a much bigger energy source than me. So it's more valuable. It's more attractive.
Yeah. And what have you seen, I guess I would assume there's some kind of contact, even if they're just reaching out to thank you, but what have you seen as some of the common themes amongst the turnaround, and I assume the joy and the gratefulness that comes from, you know, the wives and the family, but what are some of the kind of common, I guess, stories or themes that you're seeing as a result of the work that you're doing?
A common thing is actually what you said then, man. Like we get messages from the wives, definitely from the children. You know, if it's not through a social media on behalf of the dad, you know, my daughter just wanted to say this, obviously. There might be something like a personal letter. You know, I got a letter from one of the dad's kids here. You've changed my dad's life for the better, and I thank you for that. He's changed into a positive person, turned me into the best person I can be. So this girl was a little bit overweight. Now she's fit and healthy
Awesome.
because of him, and got a great mindset. He's come so far. He's a different person. Thank you. Love Lucy. And so, you know, like it's pretty, you know, I get goosebumps with this sort of stuff, man, because you really do see the ripple effect. And again, it's not through power over someone else. It's that self-empowerment of, yeah, when dads win, everyone wins. He can be a better father, be a better husband, but he gets what he wants and needs too. So the feedback, man, from guys who've been pretty deep in the pit to, you know, contemplating taking their life, to other men who just want to be in that top 1%, it does range a bit, but essentially the outcome is always the same. You know, I've found myself. I'm creating who I want to be. Like, it's identity, man, for all of them. And the feedback from the wife is, yes, thank you. You've given me my husband back. And so it's quite heartwarming, mate. And look, it's a very contrasted approach with our advertising. We do a lot of advertising, and the contrast is insane. They either hate me or love me, because a lot of men will see that and they'll think I'm a feminist or all these other things. Which is bizarre, because I'm sort of the opposite. I'm helping men get their power back in their own way through controlling what they can in themselves. But the other half, yeah, they get it, man. And whether they're members or not, we'll get podcasts where, thank you, mate. You know, I appreciate your no bullshit attitude and approach, and it's helped me snap out of it. Or this is the kick up the arse I needed. Or life's tough, Blake. You know, we all have our lists, and with these men that generally are 38 to 50, you know, maybe a little bit ahead of your audience. Maybe your audience can see that this is the path. And I've seen that. You know, there are men in their 50s I coach and work with. I'm not in my 50s, but I learn from them. So from thousands of men over the last 4 years, I've seen the exact pattern every time. This is where it will go if you don't do something. This is where it will go. This is what it means for your family, your marriage, yourself, your mental health. So to see them turn that around, and guys to see that they need that because of how messy life is, it's fantastic. It's just something I truly don't believe in, that term self-made. I think it's bullshit. You know, none of us get born out of the womb wiping our own ass, walking out and talking, right? We all need someone at some stage, and this is no different. So that's the biggest thing, man. They really love not the accountability itself, but what that has become, which is their new identity and you know, opportunity to create life and win the second half.
I'm mindful that you've got a meeting straight after this, but I mean, anyone who's listening to this that can't hear the passion in your voice is on a different page. So that in itself is so good to see. And I know obviously you're going through a transition when we last hung out, as was I. But anyone who could possibly doubt the value of this work, like, fuck off, don't listen to either of us, because we're definitely not for you. It's like so clear to me, you know, the value and the heart and the passion that you've got towards helping men be better, which I can't see any possible downside. So all the like Muppets that, you know, would be writing anything on your Facebook ads and your advertising are just not not a line for us at all. But mate, firstly, yeah, I just want to kind of thank you and congratulate you on the work that you do, which I love. And secondly, if people want to find out more about you, the work you do, and High Performance Fathers, where's the best spot for them to find out?
Appreciate it, mate. I mean, look, probably you could just type in a search engine, I guess, High Performance Father. We do have a podcast, which we love, and we'll have to get you on for an episode, mate. I think it'd be fantastic, because we're very aligned, and I love the stuff and what I've seen with you with momentum and your approach and philosophy too, Blake. I think it's a very important space that's very needed, man, like very needed. And you cannot have too much of this, but not only that, have the quality. It's all well and true to have, and I'm not dissing it, but have things like Are You Okay Day. But what are we doing consistently? What are we doing day in and day out? So I love seeing that with you, mate. And so I have a podcast, obviously YouTube channel and on socials. But I guess if they just looked in a search engine, if they ever wanted to reach out, mate, we're very accessible, and they can reach us there through all of those different platforms, really. But I just want to thank you for bringing me on, mate. And I hopefully haven't overwhelmed or given too much, or it hasn't appeared like a waffle. I'm more than happy to jump on another episode. And here's the thing, man, if we can paint the picture of perspective and set the state from there, we can then dive into the tactics and strategies. So if you or your listeners or you guys ever want to get me back on and work through, okay, cool. Now you talk about self-identity. All right, what are the top 5 things? Or you talk about marriage. What are the top 5 things for communication? What does that look like? We know about things of love language and whatnot, but what is the best way to communicate? And is it listening? Well, I don't know. Like I think the best form of communication is actually example, doing, showing through your actions, weirdly enough. But so all these little tactics I dive into, because a lot of life really is a skill set, isn't it? It's skills, it's developing. And like you said, you and me were in certainly unique transitions in our life. And it's been an awesome journey and ride to see yours as well as myself. I just think the biggest thing, mate, for people, especially for their younger listeners, is you can't write yourself off. Like, you have no right to write yourself off. You have no idea, and I say this in a positive way, you have no idea what you're possible of and what you're capable of. So who are you to write yourself off before the fact? And the fact is your last breath before you die. And that's a very important thing for a lot of young people to understand, that things like yourself, like what you guys are doing, this podcast, all these different points of environment, it's got to be the number one, man. You would hear it a lot, the big dogs talk about you, the sum of 5 people around you in the books you read. And I get and agree with all that. But just to expand on that with younger listeners who may not have consumed the types of content or been in the groups or masterminds that you and me have, it's absolutely true. It doesn't mean that I cut off my mum if she's saying, oh, poor me, and we're having a chat on the phone one day and I don't see her anymore. But where I'm investing my energy in my environment is with people who have my best interest at heart. They challenge me to be better, and my growth and who I am as a person, it shocks and blows people away at how it's accelerated. But I'm like, man, I'm a normal dude. Like, yeah, I had sport and lots of different adversities and traumas, but Blake, like, you're either growing or dying, right, man? And for our listeners here, like, if they take one thing out of this and apply it, that they will see change.
Mate, awesome. I'm glad it took a podcast to kind of touch base. I know we've both kind of been, very aligned in our own journey, kind of riding side by side, albeit, we haven't connected as much over the last couple of years. But mate, absolutely, I feel like we just kind of touched the tip of the iceberg when it came to so much there that we could have unpacked more. So we'll look at getting you back on for another episode, mate. But so good to have you on, and love the work that you're doing.
Pleasure, man. It's great to be on here, and hopefully we'll do some more in the future together, mate.
Unreal. Thanks, brother.
Thanks for tuning in this week. As always, if you enjoyed listening, please leave a review, give us a shout out across socials, or share with a friend so that we can continue to share these incredible conversations with more and more people.